Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sable's Grimoire, JP3rd, VNsNow.com. And I have calmed down a little bit. We're going to continue on with this demo and see what it has in store for us. Deep breath. Deep breath. Okay, let's do it. For the second time today, I awaken to find myself in the Academy Infirmary. Unlike earlier, however, this time around, I am undoubtedly alone. Without Raphael by my bedside telling me to rest, I force myself to stand and walk over to the window. Peering out the window, I quickly realize that it is now night or close to it. Unknowingly, I slept half the day away, and in doing so, I've missed yet another class. Oh man, I lost consciousness after the start of one class and then slept through another. Worse, the first two classes weren't even proper lessons, and I've missed the opening ceremony as well. What an unproductive first day. Regretting the opportunities that I've missed already, I turn away from the window and begin to stretch. Oh well, it's only my first day. It's not like I've missed anything important. As long as I attend class dutifully from now on, there shouldn't be any problem. I exit the infirmary and begin to walk towards my classroom. On the way, however, I realize I needn't bother. It's already nearing time for bed. Nobody is going to be in the classroom. I suppose it can't be helped. I have been asleep for half the day, after all. I can't expect everyone else to alter their schedules to suit mine. But if I'm not going to class, where should I go? I'm far too well rested to go to bed, so I don't really want to go to my room. And given how dark it is outside, a stroll around the courtyard is probably not on the table. Cafeteria, library. Well, first things first. Let me save. I'll do something similar to what I did with the dragon and Tick's choice. I'll play through. I won't flip a coin again, but I'll play through the library path and go back and do the cafeteria route. And if the cafeteria route has anything important, I will share it here. If not, then I'll leave it alone. I didn't get to spend much time in the library earlier, so it would be nice to pay another visit. Given the time of day, I might even get to place to myself, and considering how much I slept already, I wouldn't have to worry about getting carried away and losing sleep. Okay, I've made my decision. The library it is. Strolling through the empty hallways, it doesn't take long before I reach the library. Like the hallways, the library appears to be completely devoid of life and almost dead silent. Taking a quick look around, I'm fairly certain that I'm alone. Not only do I have ample time for research, I also get the library all to myself. What did I do to deserve such a wonderful gift? Rather than depress myself by dwelling on my own rhetorical question, I walk over to the nearest bookshelf. Glancing over a few dozen books, I soon take one with an interesting title in my hand. Magic Beast Covenants, Your First Binding Ritual. Sounds dangerous. Interesting. Dangerous. It's definitely not my idea of something I'd like to put to practical use. Though my knowledge on the subject is limited, I'm familiar with the basics of binding rituals and magic beast covenants. The idea is to gradually break down the resistance of a magic beast until it no longer wishes to fight. You then inject a part of yourself into the beast in its weakened state. Over time, the beast will become familiar with you and will feel as though you are truly a part of one another. Once the beast has reached that level of familiarity, you conduct a ritual to bind your soul to one another, forming a covenant breakable only by death. Of course, the entire notion of binding souls together is a complete farce. Whatever is really going on, it's sure to be something far less grandiose. But at this point in time, that is still the accepted theory, and I for one have no plans to attempt to disprove it in the foreseeable future. Then why on earth did we go on that bend? Maybe I should give the book a read after all. I may not be particularly interested in applying what I might learn, but it can't hurt to increase my knowledge on the subject. Weighing up the value of such knowledge, I flipped through the book for a few moments before putting it back on the shelf. Nah, forget it. I already have plenty of other subjects I've been meaning to research. I'll get back to binding rituals some other time, maybe. I take a step back and start scanning the shelves once more. Do you need help finding something? What? I jump in fright as the presence suddenly manifests right next to me. Jordo. Yes? Oh, if it isn't Sable. Jordo and I breathe a sigh of relief as we realize the identity of the other party. Sheesh, really scared me there. I'm sorry, I didn't intend to startle you. I really should do this in the Bane voice, shouldn't I? Hold on. No, it's fine. Yeah, Bane voice it is. No, it's fine. I was just doing engrossed in what I was doing. Anyway, what brings you back here, Jordan? If I recall correctly, earlier today you were digitizing books. Are you still doing that?
I'm not still digitizing books. I have been attending class and studying diligently since earlier, you know. But yes, that is why I'm here right now.
Wow, you sure are a hard worker. Do you really need money that badly, though? You said earlier that you're not a low-ranking student, so I can't imagine you're that strapped for cash.
Oh, I'm not doing it for the money. Money is but a factor.
I was doing two hands. Let me try one hand. No, two hands it is.
Money is certainly a factor, but above all else, I assist in digitizing books for the sake of helping other magi, such as yourself.
I was trying to do it with the one hand, but the Bane voice does require two hands. It's just the way it is. Let me mute my phone right quick. Hold on, everybody. You'd think I would have done that before I even started, but hey. That's the life I live. Dangerously. You doing a hard job like this just to help others?
This venture of mine is not entirely selfish, but that is indeed my primary goal. If you're an avid reader, then surely you know how valuable the books in this library are, yes?
I heard that there are physical books in here which don't exist anywhere else in the world, and are yet to be digitized in any way. I don't understand the point of that sentence.
Yes, precisely. That is exactly what I'm talking about. If a unique book is locked into a physical form, then only a single person can read it at any time. And if the book were to be damaged or lost, we will lose the contents forever. That is why I aim to digitize every last book in this library. I wish to free the knowledge contained within these tomes from their physical cages, and to make it freely accessible to everyone, and to bring down the corrupt!
I'm sorry. That was a little much. I apologize. That's quite a noble goal, Jonah. On behalf of everyone who has ever read one of your digitized books, allow me to thank you. I bow my head deeply towards the helpful girl in front of him.
You don't need to do that. I'm not doing this in order to be thanked or anything. I just want to help out, you know?
I raise my hand and smile at Jordan. Yes, I understand. Thank you, Jordan.
Jeez. I just said I'm not doing this to be thanked.
Although I can't see her mouth under her mask, I imagine that Jordan must be pounding as she tries to conceal her joy. Really, Jordan has no idea how much people like her have helped me over the years. As someone not in a magic institution, but with access to a terminal, digitized books were my sole source of... Oh my god, man. We know! Were it not for people like Jordan, I wouldn't even be close to where I am today. While silently singing Jordan's praises, I noticed something stuck on her mask. Jordan? You got a little... I point to a scrap of paper stuck on her mask.
Oh my. How did that get there?
Jordan laughed nervously as she plucks the scrap of paper and hastily places it in her pocket. I raise an eyebrow at Jordan's behavior, but ultimately shrug it off and decide not to ask.
So, books. Were you looking for a particular book, Sable?
Oh, right. I wasn't really looking for anything in particular. I just came back here because I found myself with some free time.
I see. I can certainly relate to that. That being said, you shouldn't neglect your health for the sake of your research. Too many aspiring young scholars have met their demise prematurely by doing so. You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it.
Neglect my health? This just makes me want to go back and watch The Dark Knight Rises. Neglect my health? What gave you that idea?
Your stomach has been grumbling since before I walked over here.
Oh. Come to think of it, I would usually have eaten dinner by now, but I wasn't particularly hungry when I woke up, so the thought didn't cross my mind. Perhaps I should have gone to the cafeteria after all. I certainly don't intend to become a victim of my own obsession. Scratching my head, I smiled wryly at Joru. Perhaps you're right. I wanted to use this time to make some progress on my research, but I've still got to eat.
These books will still be here when you get back, Sable. And your time at this academy has only just begun. Take your time and take care of yourself. Your health is far more important than your research.
I can't say I agree with that, but I do understand what you're trying to say. Alright, I'll go have dinner, then come back on a full stomach. See you later, Joru.
Take your time.
I turn around and leave the library, waving goodbye to Joru as I do. I didn't notice her legs before. That is a nice design feature. After paying a quick visit to the cafeteria, I return to the library in order to borrow a few books. Then, books in hand, I head for my dorm room so that I can read them at my leisure. I could probably read these in the library without causing any trouble, but in the event that a teacher caught me, it'd be pretty awkward to try explaining why I'm studying by myself at midnight on my first day. Rather than risk that kind of encounter, I'd be better off reading in my room where nobody will bother me. Upon entering my dorm room, I immediately glance around trying to see if my roommate is present. While it's possible that she's elsewhere, I didn't see her in the cafeteria and she's probably far more tired than I am. Realistically speaking, she's likely getting ready to go to bed at this very moment. Damn, this might be a problem after all. I want to read for a few hours, but it'll be difficult to do so without bombarding ticks with artificial light. Her sleep shouldn't be disturbed because of my mistakes. Despite my concerns, I can't find a trace of ticks anywhere. She isn't in the bed, there's no food out, and I can't hear her voice at all. The only sign of life is the faint sound of running water, which is likely the sound of someone showering in the room next to mine. How weird. I thought for sure that Tix would be here. Is she spending the night in the room of one of her friends? Tix seemed okay with having a male roommate earlier, but I wouldn't blame her if she lost her nerve after all. No sooner than I thought so, than Tix appears before me. I catch a glimpse of her figure out of the corner of my eye, and a moment later, my mouth is agape in shock. She is... What? Tix is bathing in the kitchen sink! Oh dear. Okay. Scrub, scrub, wash, make all the dirt fly away. Clean pixie is a good pixie. Isn't that right, Sable? Oh, what? I shrink back in surprise as Tix stares up at me. At this moment, I'm not sure what surprises me more. The fact that Tix is bathing in the sink, or that she's talking to me while bathing. I'd ask you if you want to join me, but that dumb look on your face tells me you can't shrink your body down to this size. I think there's a bigger issue with that than you think. I mean, to be fair, I can't shrink my body either, but unlike you, I have no reason to. Picking apart Tix's words, I quickly understand what she's trying to say. This is Tix's normal size. Her human-sized body earlier was the result of Tix enlarging her body, using a form of enhancement magic. Tix's true form is that of a tiny creature with wings, no bigger than my hand. I had a hunch that Tix might be using enhancement magic, given her strength earlier when I called her a fairy. But to think that she's able to alter her body to such an extent, humans are unable to modify their bodies too heavily with magic. You've said this already! Get on with it! Sable, are you just going to keep standing there oogling me? Or ogling, as the case may be? It's fine if you are, but at least back away a little. You're going to blow me away if you breathe any harder. I'm sorry. I lost myself in thought for a moment there. I'll leave you alone now. Sorry for disturbing you. Eh? You're going to leave? Tix's eyes and mouth open wide in surprise. Well, yeah. Isn't that natural? You're bathing. I don't want to get in your way. Tix's mouth closes, then warps into a smile. You're not in the way. Sit down and talk to me. Let's chat for a while. While you're naked. Is that a problem? I raise an eyebrow at Tix's retort. Sighing inwardly, I sit down on the edge of my bed. Well, if you're sure that it doesn't bother you, why would it? I'm not ashamed of my body. Besides, even if you're overcome with lust, it's not like you'd be able to do anything to me while I'm this size anyway. What kind of person do you think I am? Tix shrugs and smiles cheekily. Oh, come to think of it, this makes you the first human to ever see my naked body. Stop! And the first man, incidentally. Hearing Tix's words, which are no doubt intended to excite or provoke me, I betray her expectations. Rather than react with gusto, I roll my eyes and scoff. What, so you never took baths with your father when you were a child? Or with your brothers? You don't know a thing about pixies, do you? Yeah, she's already said that they're an all-female race. Tix's expression remains the same, but her voice suddenly lowers. She doesn't appear to be angry, rather there's a tinge of disappointment in her voice, or perhaps regret. I touch on the subject she doesn't want to speak about. Alter the mic just a little bit. I had it leaning back for the Bane voice. After making her way to the edge of the sink, Tix wraps her tiny arms and naked body around the faucet, causing the water to stop flowing. Tix then uses a dishcloth to dry herself on, and finally returns to normal size. Sable, do you know how pixies breed? My heart almost stops as I'm confronted with Tix's sudden question. And suddenly I'm really thankful for that lower third right there. No, you perverts, I'm not going to mess with it. Completely naked, standing in front of me, Tix jumps straight into a question one should hesitate to ask when fully clothed. And yet, despite the nature of her question, there is no lust in her eyes, nor is she blushing. Tix is dead serious. Yeah, we could tell. Visual medium, remember? No, I can't say that I do. Is it different to how humans breed? Tix shakes her head. The process is the same, but that isn't really what I'm talking about here. What I mean is, Tix averts her gaze for a moment as she tries to think of how best to continue. Screw it, I'll just be direct. Sable, there's no such thing as a male pixie. There isn't? I told you when we met, didn't— Yes, you did! All pixies are female, every last one of us. Ah, right, come to think of it, Tix did say something like that. I really didn't think about what she was saying at the time, but from the look of it, Tix wasn't kidding. I stared at Tix in surprise, half expecting her to crack a smile and laugh at me for believing her. Needless to say, however, Tix is not lying. It's a cruel joke, isn't it? We have bodies clearly made for reproduction in the same manner as many other races, yet we cannot give birth to male offspring. As a result, we have no choice but to find partners from other races with similar biology to ours, like human beings. Although Tix's words are unexpected, the concept isn't completely foreign to me. There's several They're female only, okay. Most of them reproduce asexually or use some kind of catalyst. Others have counterpart species such as succubi and incubi. Then there are races like harpies, lamia, and apparently pixies, which have no choice but to either crossbreed or perish. All pixies are taught from an early age to enhance and grow our bodies, partially to ward off predators, but also to increase the number of races we can potentially mate with. It's tiring to say human size all the time, but not in the wild it's necessary. I frowned while smiling wryly, unsure of what to say in response. Thankfully, before I can give it too much thought, a smile returned to Tix's face, and she hurriedly changes her tone. So yeah, that's how it is. If you're planning on making a move on me, you better have the resolve to see it through all the way to the end. After all, it's not like we can survive without relying on you humans. Seemingly intent on monologuing until the very end, Tix turns away from me. She then reverts back to her normal size, too small for me to clearly make out her expression, and flies towards her bed. But rather than land on the bed, she hovers above her backpack for a moment, unzipping it. Tix then slips into the backpack like a sleeping bag, making herself comfortable and tucking herself in for the night. That moment would have had so much more weight if we went into it not knowing what we already knew. Okay, we reached the end of the game, or the demo. So it's supposed to be done by the summer. We're going through the credits now. I am not going to sit here and pretend that I am ending this on a positive note, because I'm not. There's a lot of issues, not necessarily with writing, but definitely with direction, that need to be addressed. The whole thing with Tix would have been so much more effective if we would have found that out at that moment. When we met her, if she would have just said, I'm trying to think of, because she could have kept her, there are two ways it could have happened, and both of those ideas came to me at the same damn time. She could have said, hey, I'm sent here basically just to reproduce, and left it at that, and didn't give a reason. She just did that and kind of flirted with the main character for a little bit to end the conversation. It would have been a little trite, but it also would have stopped the conversation from going any further into why. And then when we got to this point, she could have said why, and that would have been kind of the knockout blow. Like, oh, that's why you're here, because there are no male pixies. This is your only way to keep your race going. It's really, really heavy. Or You could have just not brought it up at all. She could have just introduced herself like normal. He could have called her a fairy from the beginning, and that could have been their big first meeting. And then they could have made up in that moment when she reveals why she's there at the end of the demo. So that's a direction point. The way it's written, just the over-reliance on monologuing and narration is draining. There's no other way to put it. And I'm talking about, this isn't something that's difficult to fix. Most fantasy visual novels and sci-fi visual novels as well, that have a large, sprawling world with history and different races and stuff like this, require and use an index or a glossary or something that the player can click off to the side, a completely different set of side menus that they can look and say, okay, this is what a pixie is, this is what a dragon is, this is how the world works. Not having that set up in the game from the jump is a little worrying. Maybe they will change that once the full game is released. But that has to be changed, because the over-reliance on narration and monologuing brings the game down hard, and it makes it impossible to keep up tension when you have the character repeating something that he said over and over again to make sure that we get it, we understand it. It's just not as special as you seem to think. Let me get off this bloody raven. Is there anything after the credits? Nope. Okay. But other than that, there are so many. Just the basic core of the visual novel has been done better. There's no other way around it. And that's one of the benefits of operating in this particular subgenre. There are other games that have come along and have taken the same premise and done it worse and better. I will say this. It hasn't been done particularly the worst yet. That was an awkward sentence. It's not the worst I've seen yet, but it's on its way down. But there have definitely been ones that have done it better. Fault Milestone, One Small Fire at a Time, and An Octafire, respectively. The Rising Angels Reborn did a very good job of this setting. And even if you want to shelve all of those, Ace Academy did a relatively good job. It wasn't the best, it was alright. But what it did that this game didn't do is it looked to make the cliches and the tropes of this subgenre of fiction and turn them and make them entertaining. Because if you're dead set and determined to stick to a certain set anime trope and the characters that come with those tropes, because it's an academy that's for special students, and the protagonist has a growing harem starting around him, and he's edgelord who practices his own magic, and because he practices and does everything by himself, he's not where the academy wants him to be, but he is clearly special and gifted. That has been beaten to death and left on the side of the road years ago. So it's not untrodden territory. So just even with the games, you can ignore the games, even the mediocre games, and look at the greater anime and manga sphere that has taken that concept and see what works and what doesn't. But if you're going to look at all those examples and stick so close to the tropes of the subgenre, then at the very least you have to make the characters and their interactions interesting and fun to read. And after a couple of hours in this demo, the only character that even came remotely close was the Mandragora and the Human Girl, whose names are escaping me right now. And Ray and S, excuse me. I was about to say, that's not a good sign, but it came to me. Ray and S. And they were entertaining in that little sister side character kind of way, where they're more or less a sidekick, and they, in this senpai-kohai relationship. So, if I can't say which way the game is going to go because the full game isn't out yet, but even if they're dead set and determined to stick to the characters that they've got, the very least the game can do is change its direction, pull back on some of the narration, focus instead on the character interactions and making them as entertaining as possible, and creating a completely separate side menu or sub-menu system that has all of the information that the main character just keeps dumping on us. That will make it a little bit easier. It won't make it good, but it'll make it a little bit easier to digest. And from there, it's a roll of the dice. Hopefully it'll work out. I'm not... Like, it was such a... The last few episodes were just such a drain. And I don't know where it goes. The only real hook it has is twofold. And the first, well, it's a twofold hook. So the only two hooks it has, excuse me, are the fact that Sable is around a bunch of girls that can kill him, and they negate that by having him survive death. The second one is that the one that they seem the least interested in, and it's the fact that all these races and all of these groups of warring factions sometimes and rival factions are under the same roof and can somehow get along. Like, it makes no sense that where you have a school that is literally serving you dead dragon to have a dragon in your student population. That would be like saying, oh yeah, kids, we don't study Chinese here because the Chinese are an evil race of communists and we don't want to spread their communist propaganda. By the way, here's our new Chinese student who's just transferring in today. It doesn't mix. So, if I were behind the narration or direction of this game or the writing of this game, the thing I would take away from this demo analysis and playthrough is, okay, let's change focus from emphasizing what people have seen done a million times already and focus on this school and this ecosystem and culture and how it works. Elves and dragons don't get along. Why is there an elf and a dragon in the same class or two classes away from each other? What's up with that? This plant is afraid of being killed and used in magic spells. What's her life like? The pixie, I was about to call her a fairy, don't want to get pissed off the writing team. But the pixie is literally there to get laid. How does that affect her education? Does she really care? Why does she care about getting educated in anything when she's just going to go back to her group and have babies? What does that do to a character to have that knowledge going in? And if she is defying that, why? If that's what her culture expects of her, and she is in the school specifically to defy it, which would make her a far more interesting character off the bat. Why is that? And what has led to that? And, I mean, I'm trying to think. I covered a lot of the characters with just that broad stroke. And yeah, just make the protagonist, I'm not going to say, oh, make the protagonist more human. There's little we can really do about that the game itself can't. It's going to take the full game to kind of fix. But definitely giving him situations that he can't just automatically impress his way out of or survive would be fun. And, stroke of luck, he's the protagonist so he gets out. Giving him real life or death situations or situations that he can't win. Like, for instance, in the instance where he nearly died, okay, instead of having that be the stakes, erase that, have him just not be able to do the spell. He tries, it's the spell he came up with on his own, he tries to make it work, but the invocation just doesn't work. And no matter what, he's at a standstill. So he's explaining to whoever his pick is, Tix or Draken, that he came up with the spell and this invocation and it worked at home somewhat, but for some reason it's not working in the school despite all the magical properties around him. So you give him this edge of, okay, he's already thinking so far ahead, he's trying to create his own spells, which other students aren't thinking of right now. But at the same time, you give him a little bit of failure in there that while he's ambitious, he's not there yet. We don't have that in him. What we have is that he's the atypical anime hero protagonist and that he is a literal god just waiting to be born, and that we should all be excited as he inevitably picks a mate from the several nubile women who want to be his mate. And that's just, I'm sure that'll please somebody. I'm sure, but this is me we're talking about, and you should know me by now. But those are my thoughts heading out of the demo. It's just, I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. If you want to leave a comment, absolutely. Definitely check out the demo. The link is in the description box, and give the developers your thoughts as well. I always recommend that it's good for them to hear different opinions so that they can either incorporate it or not incorporate it. But that extra knowledge always does help. So definitely check the demo out yourself. And like I said, it's a long list of stuff I went through. But the key thing, if you take nothing else away from it, if the Zetsubou team is listening, if they take nothing else away from it, just do something about the narration. If you don't fix anything else, do something about the narration, because oh my god, by the end of it, I want to reach to my screen and strangle this dude. You can only repeat yourself so many times before you tick the audience off. And by the end of this one, that's what happened. So leave a like in the description box if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. VNSNow.com, and that is VNSNow.com. We have another interesting demo coming your way very soon. And hopefully by the end of this month, we'll have a couple of special videos out and the continuation of the Pillars of the Earth, which I'm excited to do. So I'll catch you guys then, and thank you very much for watching Sable's Grimoire. See you in the next one.